Good morning, traders. This is Shane Scott, the moderator of Newsware's Trade Talk. At Trade Talk, we're providing you with the most up-to-the-minute news on the market, along with the facts, themes, and short-term trading ideas for the day ahead. Joining me today is our trading anchor, Bill Olson, who brings over 30 years of institutional trading knowledge to our program. We're going to get things started with our markets update. U.S. futures are essentially flat this morning, rather directionless, not giving much of an insight as far as what direction the markets are moving. They've been moving lower, and they've been kind of going back and forth today, along with European stocks, which have also slumped as investors assess multiple economic risks like the resurgent pandemic and China's regulatory crackdown. Money managers like Citigroup have turned cautious on U.S. equities, whereas Morgan Stanley cut U.S. stocks to underweight and global equities to equal weight, citing outsized risks to growth through October. Treasury yields have slid and the dollar has extended a rally. Elsewhere in markets, oil jumped as the ongoing impact of Hurricane Ida on U.S. output sent WTI futures 1% higher to $69.38 per barrel. In regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, Japan may extend state of emergency orders, and Taiwan identified a Delta variant outbreak in New Taipei City. Over in Europe, growth concerns were compounded by the possibility that the European Central Bank might be getting ready to slow down emergency stimulus. Over in Asia, Japan is seeing markets climb for an eighth day, supported by hopes for economic stimulus from the next prime minister. Bill, what are you seeing as far as market updates?
Shane, I'm watching the S&Ps, and you're right. They've been flat for the longest period. But early this morning they were down like 0.28%, which is negative. That shows you that we're going to be having a much lower opening. Now, I look over in Europe this morning around 5 a.m. and the European exchanges, each of them were down over 1%. That's not positive, but they did claw their way back, and they're down 0.5%, so that's okay. The futures for the U.S., they did claw back. I do show them, moving lower now. So I do think we're going to have a drop today, which is kind of what we were saying yesterday. The fact is, yesterday we saw that report from Morgan Stanley where they said we're negative on the U.S. healthcare industry. I read the report. They're not negative on the long-term aspects. They just think that there's better places for you to put their money. And now you see that the major brokers out there, I'm talking Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, they're all coming out there saying that, the outlook for equities is concerning. Why? Because, we're in September, October, you're at all-time highs. And this is the time of period where, volatility can increase. So they're putting their brakes in neutral right now. They're not saying don't do anything. They're just saying be selective with which sectors you want to be involved in. Why? Because, volatility can jump at any moment now, and there is concern about economic growth. You saw some of these brokers lowered their economic growth forecast for this past quarter. So it's something to be concerned about. Today, I think the market's going to be focused on some of these economic reports. The JOLTS report, which is job openings. That's going to be a key read. And then later this afternoon, the Beige Book. And the Beige Book normally isn't a huge, important report that comes out, but it really does give you an idea of the economy overall. So I suspect that this Beige Book might create some volatility when it's released later this afternoon. And then you always got to pay attention to, any speeches that are going on from Robert Kaplan, and he's doing one this evening. Remember, he was the guy out there saying, we have to start tapering, and he started talking about that in April. He's going to be giving his first speech, and it's going to be happening this evening after the market closes. There's a little negativity on Kaplan because he made some stock trades and he made a lot of money. Don't put too much, credence into this. Yes, he did, but this guy is a good trader. I mean, he's a former, executive over at Goldman, so there's a lot of credibility behind him. I'm still watching earnings. Korn Ferry, Luminar, RH, the former Restoration Hardware, Lululemon, GameStop, National Beverages are all coming out. So there's a number of earnings to keep your eyes on today as well, Shane.
Let's talk about earnings to watch, starting with the earnings we've seen come in so far. Bill, tell us about it.
Rev Group, that's ticker REV, Richard Edward Victor. They beat by 3 cents. but they did it on lower revenue. The stock's unchanged this morning. I don't know if it's going to be moving higher today because of that lower revenue they came in on. Corn Ferry, that's ticker KFY, Kilo Frank Yellow. These guys beat by 30 cents. They did it on higher revenue. You look at the stock, it's at 8.95% this morning. In Casey's Stores, they beat by 23 cents. They did it on higher revenue. It was a solid report. The problem with Casey's Stores is that nobody was trading them when they released. They released, at 5:30 p.m. Last night, which is an hour and a half later than all the other firms release. So, that late release is causing them to have a lack of volume in their stock. I don't even see any trades happen in the stock this morning, but I do think it's going to start moving higher because this is a quality beat from Casey's Stores last night, ticker CASY.
Tell us what we're seeing as far as earning announcements for Wednesday.
Oh, ticker LMNR, Larry, Michael, Nancy, Richard, Luminary. They expect their EPS is 17 cents, and the expected move there is 9.54%. Remember, on 8/24, these guys reported their Q3 preliminary EPS of 18 to 23 cents for this quarter. The estimates back then were for 39 cents, at 39 cents, so that was a big drop. The CEO was mentioning logistical delays as the reason why they're cutting their EPS forecast. So it's not a good sign going into earnings for ticker LMNR this afternoon. Larry, Michael, Nancy, Richard. RH.com. This is ticker RH, Richard Harold, formerly known as Restoration Hardware. Their EPS estimate is $6.47, and the expected move here is 9.39%. Lululemon, ticker LULU, Larry Uncle, Larry Uncle. Their EPS estimate is $1.19, and the expected move here is 5.98%. And let's throw in GameStop, ticker GME, Grace Michael Edward. They're expected to lose 66 cents this quarter. The expected move on the stock is 15.41%.
Moving into our economic reports, Bill, tell us what we're seeing for reports today.
Well, 8:55, we have the Red Book on retail sales. This will be an interesting read. It's good on the aggregate ahead of, the major retail sales reports before they come out. So it's kind of like ingredients in order to get the recipe right before the retail sales are released. At 10 a.m., we have the job openings number coming out. That's the JOLTS index, which will be released. And at 2 p.m., we have the Beige Book coming out from being released as well. I should also throw out that at 4:30 p.m., the American Petroleum Institute is going to be releasing their stockpiles estimates. You're going to see, some, issues there because of the hurricane last week. But those API numbers are estimates that are being released a half hour after the market closes today. In terms of Fed speak, John Williams, he's the New York City Fed Bank chairman. He's going to be speaking today at 1:10 p.m. Eastern time, and at 6 p.m. This evening, Dallas Fed Bank President Robert Kaplan will be giving a speech.
Moving into our morning's critical insights, a lot of acquisition news for everybody today. Starting things off with Perrigo, ticker PRGO. The company is set to acquire HRA Pharma, a consumer self-care company from funds affiliated with Goldman Sachs, ticker GS, for $2.1 billion. Top Build, ticker BLD, will acquire Distribution International from Advent International for $1 billion. JP Morgan, ticker JPM, is acquiring a controlling stake of 75% in Volkswagen's payments platform. Digital Bridge Group, ticker DBRG, has agreed to sell its wellness infrastructure portfolio of more than 300 facilities for $3.2 billion. Vertiv Holdings, ticker VRT, will acquire E&I Engineering Group for $1.8 billion. Sanofi, ticker SNY, will be acquiring Cadmon, ticker KDMN, for $1.9 billion or $9.50 per share. PayPal, ticker PYPL, is set to acquire Paydi for $2.7 billion. And lastly, ICU Medical, ticker ICUI, is acquiring Smith's Medical Division for $2.35 billion. Elsewhere on the tape, News on Tesla, ticker TSLA. Tesla sold 44,264 China-made electric vehicles in August, according to the latest data published by the China Passenger Car Association. Figures for August represent a 34% rise compared to 32,968 China-made vehicles sold in July and 33,155 cars sold in June. Local sales of the EVs soared by nearly 50% to 12,885 vehicles from 8,621 in July. The growth is likely coming from Tesla's introduction of its cheaper version of the Model Y in July. In other news, Citrix Systems, ticker CTXS. Elliott Management owns more than a 10% stake in Citrix and is pushing for changes to help boost the software company's stock price. Citrix share price is up 5.31% in pre-market. News on Gain, ticker GANX. Gain has climbed as high as 40% in pre-market following positive top-line data from a study evaluating its star compounds as treatments for Gaucher and Parkinson's disease. Gain's share price is currently up 29.49% higher in pre-market. Lastly, for me, news on DraftKings, ticker DKNG. DraftKings has launched a new and exclusive game, DraftKings Rocket, to its casino product suite, which has a $1 million prize pool and is available for play in New Jersey, with Michigan and West Virginia to follow pending regulatory approval. DraftKings share price is up 0.82% in pre-market. Bill, what are you seeing as far as this morning's news?
Well, Shane, I break my news alerts down into specific sectors. I'm looking at oil and gas. I'm looking at, semiconductors. I'm looking at the FANG sectors. I also look at specific events like, guidance. Earnings guidance is always very important. I also look at, earnings overall. I look at share buybacks. I'm always looking for these types of catalyst events that are going to create momentum in the stock price. I look at my FANG sector today. And Facebook, they're out there touting their privacy features, but apparently Facebook's employees cannot read the direct messages under WhatsApp. However, Facebook has hired more than 1,000 outside contractors to review these messages, so it's still being done. Netflix, one of the things about, the FANG industry is we saw positive moves in the FANG stocks yesterday, while the majority of the market was down. And this morning we're seeing, some of the major brokers, throwing out new and higher price targets on stocks like Netflix and Apple. Going on to Apple, Apple is expecting, to unveil its new iPhone and possibly the new watch at the September 14th event that they announced yesterday. Remember, the stock typically trades higher into this event, so it's one that you want to keep your eye on. And also another Apple news, that secret car project that they have. Well, the head of that car project was a guy by the name of Doug Field. He just put in his resignation. He's going back to Ford. So that's not good news for Apple's Envisionary coming out with an Apple car, but it is definitely good news for Ford because they're getting a quality guy to come back into their fold. In terms of the Dow Jones 30, this is an interesting story with Chevron. Chevron is going to be selling a test batch of sustainable fuel to Delta Airlines. You look at the stock of Delta Airlines this morning, and you see that it's actually trading higher. So it's like, yeah, there's something going on there. It's up 0.83% this morning. Intel is planning to build a new chip making facility in Europe. Value there is like $95 billion. And IBM, they're offering a new line of power servers for frictionless, scalable hybrid cloud. You mentioned that JP Morgan story. The interesting thing about that JP Morgan story is, yes, they did strike a deal with, Volkswagen in their payments business ahead of their planned rollout of their new technology. This new technology is going to allow drivers to automatically pay for fuel or tolls. Apparently, you're not going to use a credit card. It's going to go automatically to a sensor on your car, and you'll be billed via your credit card. So it's actually really interesting. I also see there's a bunch of management calls going on today, particularly in Verizon, ticker VZ, Victor Zebra, JP Morgan, ticker JPM, John Paul Mary, and Visa, which is ticker V as in Victor. In terms of the option market, the tech stocks were kind of in focus yesterday, after that Apple announced that September 14th event. I'm looking at Micron, 30-day option applied volatility is 37 compared to the 52-week range of 30 to 59. Qualcomm, the 30-day option volatility is 23 compared to the 52-week range of 22 to 55. And Cirrus Logic, that's ticker CRUS, Charlie Richard, Uncle Sam. 30-day option implied volatility is 28, whereas in the 52-week range is 26 to 58. So, we're talking low vol situations for some of these tech stocks. In terms of buyback news today, Analog Devices, that's ticker ADI, Apple, David, India. These guys just announced that they entered into multiple accelerated share repurchasing agreements to repurchase up to $2.5 billion worth of the company's stock. Williams, that's ticker WMB, William Michael Boy. They announced a $1.5 billion share repurchasing program. And Rev Group, that's ticker REV, Ralph Edward Victor. Their board just approved $150 million share repurchasing authorization. So there's some good news in the buybacks alert to this morning, Shane. And that's what I have for you as far as market updates that I'm seeing.
Let's talk about our Trade Talk picks for today. I'm picking Analog Devices, ticker ADI, and this is off of news of its $2.5 billion share buyback plan that they just came out with. So that's going to move the market for them. It's going to move their share price higher in appreciation. So I think it's a good one to get into today. What's your pick looking like?
Well, Shane, I'm going with Lovesac. That's ticker LOVE, Love, Larry, Oscar, Victor, Edward. I'm expecting a positive move, for off of the earnings report that's coming out tomorrow morning. It's really the positive move going into the earnings report. I mean, I look at the brokers, they've all been raising their price targets this past quarter. That's typically a good sign. I'm looking at the option volume. It is rather light, but it's still solid on the call side, and that's a good indicator as well. One indicator that I'm not positive about is what the CEO said last quarter in their EPS statement. He went on and he said, "We recognize the environment remains dynamic, and we continue to execute our vision and strategy with discipline, and we focus on continuing to drive long-term value for all of our shareholders." I don't like it when they start talking about long-term value. That's just me. So I'm cautiously optimistic on it. I'm going to take profits where I can today. And Lovesac, that's ticker LOVE, Larry, Oscar, Victor, Edward. But that's my pick for today.
Moving into what's hot off the press, the news that's hitting the tape as we speak. Let's talk about it. Bill, what are the headlines that traders should know about?
General Mills, that's ticker GIS, Grace India Sam. General Mills revised their EPS estimates. They're now expecting the EPS, which they came out with earlier, and they felt that they were going to be down 2 to 4%. The new estimates are flat to down 2% respectively. So that's a positive for ticker GIS, General Mills. Walmart, ticker WMT. Walmart announced a cash tender offering for certain of its outstanding debt securities.
Moderna, ticker mRNA, and National Resilience have entered into a manufacturing agreement for its COVID-19 vaccine.
Here's one on Caesars, ticker Charlie Zebra Richard, CZR. Caesar Sportsbook and Horseshoe Baltimore, which is a Baltimore Ravens partner. Baltimore Ravens and Caesars Entertainment have announced a multifaceted partnership and with Caesar Sportsbook to become the premier sports betting partner for the team.
Digital Ally, ticker DGLY, has acquired Ticket Smarter and Good Tickets.
Oracle, ticker ORCL, Oscar Richard, Charlie Larry. Oracle's offering free training and certification for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. That's a good idea.
Thermo Fisher, ticker TMO, plans to establish single-use technology manufacturing facility.
Microsoft, ticker MSFT. Apparently, Jefferies had a call with management recently, and they're positive on shares of Microsoft, just raising their price target.
Global Payments, ticker GPN, has agreed to buy Mineral Tree for $500 million cash.
American Eagle, ticker AEO, Apple, Edward, Oscar. American Eagle growth to surprise next year, according to UBS.
Applied Materials, ticker AMAT, has announced a new hot implant technology for silicon carbide chips, inject ions. Anything else interesting for you, Bill?
No, that's all I'm seeing today, Shane.
Same here. So that's what's hot off the press. Traders, keep in mind you can receive the same breaking stories we do simply by subscribing at newsware.com. Check us out, get a free trial. moving into our scoreboard, talking about how our picks did from Tuesday. I had Match Group, ticker MTCH, which opened at $161.01, but this was way too high. And we said that, we said wait till some weakness to get in. And the stock did get weaker. It did go down to as low as $157.14 by late morning, just before noon, around 11:30, which was a good time to buy in. And it closed up at $159.36 for a 1.12% gain. So if we timed this one and really looked for that weakness like we talked about, we had our moment, and it wasn't a bad little gain. And the stock's continuing to move higher today in the morning, and it's already up 0.4% in pre-market and looking like it's going to move higher. So it was not a bad move for us. How did yours end up doing, Bill?
It's still to be determined. Yesterday I did Casey's Stores, ticker CASY. This was an earnings play. Stock opened up at $206.42 and hit a high of $208.42. Which was a positive move, but the stock, went along with the market and the other retailers and closed lower. They didn't report till 5:30 last night, so there wasn't a whole lot of volume there. And there's no volume today, but face the facts. These guys beat by 23 cents on higher revenue. Same store sales were up 8%. This is positive. I think when you see the market opens this morning, you're going to see Casey Stores experience a nice little uptick. Remember, it was posed for a big move when the earnings were released, but there's just no volume there just yet this morning.
Well, that's going to do it for us here at Trade Talk. But traders, you know what to do. Let's get out there. Let's make some green.